Mr. Chair.
Hi, give us one sec,
Certainly.
Mr. Garbark. Okay. Good to go. Technology is in order and all that?
I think so.
Yeah, we think so?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Garbark, please.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'm Matt Garbark. I am the Director of the Department of Public Works for Baltimore City. We are happy to be here. I'm joined with Deputy Director Alan Robinson, Bureau Head Kendall Abu Hakim, as well as other members of our senior team, solid waste team, including Antoine Bird, who's the Chief of Disposal Services, and Sophia Hossein, who's the Chief of our Zero Waste Office. So starting big picture with the Department of Public Works, this is our mission and our vision statement. They have been revised over the last couple years. And the mission is through our dedicated team of employees and partners, Baltimore DPW delivers the essential public services that build a cleaner, healthier, and more vibrant region. And again, that mission is looking to cover both the Bureau of Solid Waste and the Bureau of Water and Wastewater. Those are the two divisions of the Department of Public Works. Our vision is to provide the trusted, high-quality services that ensure the region's health, environment, and improvement of our communities. This is our organizational chart. It is a little blurry. We are a large department. We have over about 2,500 employees, and I'll go over the different areas that we have divided the department into. So there's basically three large functional areas. There is the Deputy Director, which oversees most of the operations of the department, including both bureaus and the Finance Office. There is our administrative side under the direction of our Chief of Staff, LaToya Curtis, overseeing many of the administrative functions such as human resources, our council, legislative affairs, and other areas that are on the administrative side. And then there is what's called a new area called our operations and logistics area, which is those functions that really work between and within the different bureaus and the different offices. This is Office of Information Technology, Office of Emergency Preparedness and Response, our Baltimore Environmental Police Unit, and a newly created Office of Fleet and Facilities, and an Office of Materials Management. Getting into our operating budget, DPW's fiscal 26 funding allocation is approximately $775 million. And the breakdown in the funding across the bureaus is as follows. Bureau of Solid Waste has $144.3 million. Bureau of Water and Wastewater, $347.9, around $348. And administration, $282.5. I do want to say administration includes our customer care and management service, which also includes our water billing teams as well as our meter shop and meter operations. That's why that is a much higher than one would normally think for administration. So that area includes a lot of our customer-oriented and customer-facing units. For our capital budget, our allocation is $563 million. As you will see, the Bureau of Water and Wastewater, we use, as you'll see in the presentation later, revenue bonds, and that is about $533.7 million for the capital funding, and the FY26 funding for the Bureau of Solid Waste, which is general fund, is $29 million. I'm now going to turn it over to Bureau Head Kendall Abu Hakim to go into some more details about the Bureau.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kendall Abu Hakim, Bureau Head for Solid Waste. Before I share some of the slides, I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege and say I would argue that every administration that has ever existed in DPW Solid Waste has been concerned with the health and safety of its employees and the environment as well. But due to recent tragedies, we had the painful realization that we could no longer defer meeting those needs and making sure that we're taking care of our frontline employees. So with that being said, I'll share some of the work that is already completed to that end, and then also acknowledge that there's more work to be done. These are the assets that we have currently. Of course, many of you are familiar with the Quarantine Road Landfill, which we consider, or the acronym QRL. We also have the Northwest Transfer Station, which is located at Garrison and Ricestown Roads. Also, there's the solid waste sanitation yards located at Kane Street. We also have the Reedbird location, which is temporarily closed for renovations, which is a further acknowledgement that we're moving towards making sure that we have first-class facilities for our employees. And then also there's Bowley's Lane. Regarding residential recycling centers, there's Sisson Street, Bowley's Lane, Reedbird, which again is temporarily closed, Quarantine Road Landfill, and then the Northwest Transfer Station. So this is just a basic map that would give you kind of an overview of where these locations are. And as you can see, the city boundaries are in yellow lines, but we do have pretty good coverage throughout the city. Some of our recent accomplishments. So at the Quarantine Road Landfill, we have new facility trailers. Basin 5 has had repairs and an expansion done. Bowley's Lane has new locker room facilities as well as restroom trailers. The administration building has improvements to its locker room and restroom renovations, and so forth and so on. So each of the next slides will give more indication of some of those things that I mentioned. Here's the Quarantine Road Landfill Erosion and Settlement Control Project. This project will update and improve stormwater management and bring the site into regulatory compliance with MDE's 2011 standards. The first subtask is the upgrade and expansion of Basin 5. The basin is currently being expanded, increasing the footprint by 70%, addressing the long-term need for additional holding capacity for the site. And this was completed in December of 2025. Regarding some of the facility upgrades, these are 2 new modular office and break room trailers that were installed at our Quarantine Road landfill, replacing trailers that actually had been there for 25 to 30 years. So this is definitely an improvement over what previously existed. The new trailers do provide cleaner and safer environment for employees and management, and this project also included updated fiber to the new trailers to improve internet reliability to the site. And we have an additional trailer that's planned to be delivered this month, January of 2026. More indication of the improvements that have been made. This is another new modular restroom locker room trailer that has been installed at the site, which is located at Bowley's Lane. And this is a definite improvement over what previously existed, especially if you're familiar with some of the heat challenges that we had a couple of summers ago. This is one of the facilities that needed it the most. Also, improvements to the existing structure at Bowley's Lane, which is an improvement to the restroom locker room areas. And you can see that new plumbing has been installed, and then you have the framing for new walls and other things that have to be placed in that location. Another example of an improvement, this is at our Sisson Street location, and this is probably the most recent install that we've had regarding new modular structures. So this eliminates everyone trying to congregate in a really small space. I think Sisson Street is probably one of our most popular residential recycling centers. Almost everyone is familiar with it, and if you've ever visited there, the existing structure is pretty small. So we're trying to run administration out of that same structure as well as accommodate our employees, so this will improve that operation. Neiman Avenue, which is our foster home, for lack of a better term, while the improvements are being planned and scheduled for our Reedbird location. But this is one of the structures that we had placed there to make sure that we are addressing health and safety and clean working environments for our employees.
While you're doing that, let me ask a quick question. Are these trailers all substantially the same as each other? I mean, do you buy them
No, we
kind of
get
off the rack, so to speak?
No. We get them constructed based on need because, of course, some locations have more employees, and then there's also, say, for example, gender concerns where there may be more females at one location than it is at the other. So,
does the city have some sort of pre-existing agreement with a trailer vendor to sort of like for cost effectiveness and so on? It seems like a lot of trailers, which are obviously a welcome improvement, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we've been working with, the two companies, most of that has been with a company called Wilmot. We've been using them for quite a number of years. What they do is they customize the trailer to your needs, but there are certain trailers that they know sell, so they manufacture them. What we were able to do is they had a couple of trailers that they had manufactured that they were thinking were going to go down to Florida region after a hurricane for some temporary shelters, and they didn't need them, so they were able to easily retrofit them up here. But it is a contract with Wilmot, and there is one other contractor. What's the other one for the landfill, Antoine?
McGrath.
McGrath is the other contract, so. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Director. I think I'm having just a bit of issue.
Is it not
Yeah,
going?
yeah, it's not going.
There.
There we go, okay. So this is just a schematic of our location at the southeastern sanitation yard, which is located at Kane Street. We are happy to report that the design for this is 100% complete, but this will definitely improve the existing structure, providing new lighting, HVAC, roofing, and restroom facilities. So that's just a brief overview of what's happening at Kane Street. This is the Western Sanitation Yard. This one is, of course, the Reed Bear facility, which is under design right now. And this will provide a lot more flexibility, not only for operations, but for our employees as well. New facilities, new administration areas, parking, you name it, this will cover it. East Side Transfer Station, this is 30% complete for design, and we expect it to be at 60% next month, February of 2026, and then having full design completion in September of 2026. And this will expand several of our operations regarding solid waste, as well as small hauler and potentially other activities such as composting. And to speak to some of our current projects that are ongoing, I'll introduce our Chief of Disposal Services, Mr. Antoine Bird.
Good afternoon, everyone. Antoine Bird, Chief of Disposal Services for DPW. So we'll talk about a lot of our current projects that we're going on right now. Kendall went through a lot of them, but we'll go into them in a little bit more detail, budgetary concerns, and then overall scope and details. I'll say overall, our goal for a lot of these projects is to move towards zero waste instead of just disposal. So we do have a lot of attributes as a part of our scopes that push into that direction with a lot of the changes that we have going on to some of these sites. So first one we'll talk about is Quarantine Road landfill. So overall, this is a project to do an expansion on the landfill, which would increase the life from what we currently have to an additional 14 to 18 years, depending on our volume intake. Based on our current volume, we'd probably get between that 14 and 15 year time frame. The first phase of that is to relocate Quarantine Road itself. So that red line you see on that picture would be the new path for the road. It would go behind Millennium Landfill, and then we would be able to capture the space between the two landfills as new cell space. So phase one, we're expecting to be able to go out to bid this fall to be able to start that project. Right now, we're just working through the approval for stormwater management piece. The road relocation piece is a $35 million project in itself. But overall, the project is a $115 million budget for the road relocation and the creation of the two new cells. So phase two would be the creation of cell M1, which we expect that to be starting construction in FY28. And then phase three would be the construction of cell M2, which would start in FY29. The next one is the Southeastern Sanitation Yard or Kane Street Yard. This project, again, is all about renovating this site. So the overall plan is to completely overhaul this site with a full gut renovation of it, including the office space, the warehouse, and the overall garage space, which houses our special services and our street sweeping operations. We've done a ton over this year, including getting the design to 100%, but we've done a lot of work on minor repairs as well, addressing roofing issues, HVAC issues over the summertime, and trying to create some more accessible restroom areas. Overall, for the renovation, the budget is $7.8 million, and we have put this in motion to go out to bid this month. So we're expecting to start construction this spring, and it'll be a one-year construction timeline. The next one is the Western Sanitation Yard of Reedbird. Again, we've talked about this from a minor repairs aspect of what we did just to make sure the site was in operating condition in the early part of last year. And then we closed it down to make sure that we can continue to move forward. From a design perspective, we are at 90% on this design, and we're currently working through some regulatory and permitting approvals right now to be able to move this forward. Our current estimate on this project is $17 million. This project is going to pretty much expand the scope or overhaul the scope of what is currently there, replacing modular facilities with an actual building, creating space for over 200 employees to actually congregate and have a lunch space or meeting room space, in addition to renovating the current existing administrative building. Additional features that will be included is updated truck wash, updated parking for not just employees, but also our vehicles, and also increase and expand the capacity for our residential recycling centers, creating a more safer and streamlined approach to being able to utilize that facility. So a lot of upgrades to that site. Overall, the design, we want to keep it very consistent with what we have next door with Middle Branch. So from a design features perspective, we've kind of utilized that as a model to be able to improve the visual facade of the overall area, because it is a solid waste sanitation yard, but it doesn't have to look like one. So that project is currently moving forward. The next one is the Eastern Sanitation Yard men's and women's locker room and bathroom. And we've touched on this from a minor repairs and what the work has already started. Overall, this project is expected to be completed in June, but it's currently starting and moving forward where you saw the picture of the plumbing and the framing that's been going on. A good chunk of this project is ARPA funded. The rest of it is covered through our CIP, but is really addressing our health and safety to make sure that this administrative building at this site is comfortable for our workers. So we are expanding and extending our women's locker room with this, also creating a lactation room and a gender neutral restroom at that site. The next one is the Bowleys Lane aerated static pile compost facility, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in conjunction with the East Side Transfer Station project. But overall, the scope of this project is to create a compost facility at the Bowleys Lane site that would allow us to be able to process up to 12,000 tons worth of compost material per year. The project is currently, again, being designed with the East Side Transfer Station, and we're currently at 30%. We expect a 60% design within the next month or so. But overall, the budget for this particular one is about $8 million. But overall, we'll talk about what that larger number is for the entire complex. So the next three slides, I'll talk about the East Side Transfer Station project. This project is, the intent is to create a campus of solid waste facilities at the Bowleys Lane site, which would include the sanitation yard for Bowleys Lane, the east side of it, the compost facility, but also introduce the small haulers to that as well. So we'll be creating a secondary area for small haulers outside of the Northwest Transfer Station or the Quarantine Road landfill for them to be able to come to utilize the facility as well. So we've broken this down into phases. Phase one is really designed to create immediate needs for not just the community, but also our workers as well. Again, health and safety is a big thing that we want to be able to improve for our workers. So, bless you. With this one, in phase one, the intent is to create a administration building in addition to that, which would sit off the side next to the current administration building. And again, akin to the Western Sanitation Yard, is going to create additional space for offices and seating space for the management of the team at the site, but also create a conference room, lunchroom area for the workers at that site. In addition to that, we are streamlining the residential recycling center, also creating that small hauler space to give us capacity that would be a third more than what we currently have at the Northwest Transfer Station. We've done some say created the ability to be able to queue a lot more of that small hauler traffic on site so that we don't have the similar challenges at the Northwest Transfer Station where the line wraps around the corner. We have created space to up to 30 to 35 vehicles to be on site while waiting to utilize the facility. And then also creating a compost facility and increasing parking for the vehicles and for our employees. So that is phase one. The current construction phase on that piece is, the budget for that is about $36 million to get us this piece. And then overall it's a 2-year build out, which we expect to start at the beginning of, the end of FY27. The second phase of the East Side Transfer Station would expand on the back end of that site and create a transfer station specifically geared towards small haulers. The overall intent on this is to really create additional space for the small haulers to be able to utilize this facility in a more efficient manner. So what we have here towards the bottom of the screen is a facility that is specifically designed to allow small haulers to come. They can dump inside of a building. We can manage that material and then be able to transfer it out from the site in a more streamlined fashion than just them sitting there waiting to utilize trailers. We'll actually have floor space where we can build up and be able to move that material when it's more convenient for us than it is rushing to try to get a trailer back to the yard for them to continue to move forward. So this would certainly streamline the ability for us to manage that material a lot more efficiently and also allow us to be able to take in a lot more haulers in a shorter amount of time frame. To build out the expansion on that would be an additional $14 million on top of the 36, bringing the overall project to a $50 million project, with the expectation for us to roll this out by 2031 for construction. The next project we'll talk about is the long haul study. I believe it was FY25. We have received $500,000 for a long haul study to go out and just kind of see what the feasibility would be to create, whether it's rail or some other way, method of doing moving waste long haul. Our preferred method obviously is rail, and that was indicated in Less Waste, Better Baltimore. But overall, this study has kind of morphed in not just into a rail study, but more of a waste diversion feasibility study, right? So what we're trying to do is create a roadmap that tells us exactly how we need to move forward and what facilities we need to be able to get to the point where we are really getting extremely close to zero waste in its efficacy. So with this, the scope of that study is going to produce information on a rail transfer station, a construction and demolition transfer station, mixed waste processing plant, material recoveries facility, a second transfer station, and then the expansion of any current solid waste facilities that may be available. And we're expecting the initial results of this study to come out in the summer of 2026, but then there's an extended piece that produces additional information that will be coming out towards the end of the year.
Before you go to that, is there another slide on this?
No, this is the only slide on this.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to add something on this here. This is where we stand currently. This is what our current capital program looks like. Antoine mentioned the Quarantine Road landfill, about $115 million expansion. The question that this project is going to answer for us is, or the expectation is, whether the landfill expansion project is the best and highest use to really further our needs. As Antoine mentioned, you are looking at what, 15 years capacity?
Correct.
Additional capacity in the Quarantine Road landfill. That is assuming incineration continues with Bresco. As we know, the desire is to get away from that, to not utilize that. If Bresco is not utilized, that decreases our use by about 4 years. So the question is $115 million for 4 years worth of landfill capacity the best and highest use of our investment? The question, I am not prepared to answer that. My gut is telling me that there might be another way to do that, and that is the purpose of this study, to see what else is out there, and if there is a need or way or possibility to pivot with that investment in our landfill to actually make some meaningful progress on zero waste. But what we are presenting is what the capital program to date looks like, and there are still some questions out there as to what recommendations we might be coming next year to actually make some changes in our approach on that. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thanks.
Sure.
So the next couple of slides just kind of go over our requests. So for FY '27, we talked about the Quarantine Road landfill expansion. Historically, we've done a $3 million investment into that every year, with us starting to get started on the actual construction if we make it to that point. FY '28 will be the last year we'll be making that request. There's an additional investment into our solid waste health and safety improvements. With a lot of our sites, we've gotten updated trailers. There are a couple more that we need to address. So this funding would help us be able to address those lingering facility issues. The solid waste regulatory and compliance services are really based around Quarantine Road and ensuring that we get to and stay in compliance at that site. And then the waste diversion facility piece is really a design number that we expect to come out of that long haul study. So with the recommendations and the roadmap that comes from that study, we'll have to move forward with designing some of these facilities that they recommend. This is the first step in putting funds towards the design for those facilities. And then there's an additional piece for the aerated static pile composting facility to be able to cover that $8 million projected cost for that development. When we start talking about the future and kind of looking at the next 5 years, this is pretty much our overall breakdown. When it comes to the waste diversion facility, again, our shift is from the disposal model to more getting towards waste diversion and zero waste. We want to start putting more of an effort towards those facilities. So the FY '28 request is more about design. Everything past that is starting to get into development of whatever comes out of that study. The health and safety facility improvements, what we don't want to do is find ourselves right back into a situation where we've done this huge investment to our solid waste facilities, but then have done nothing to maintain those over the next couple of years. So we're making sure that we include some type of investment to make sure that we can continue to keep those facilities in structure and working in the most comfortable shape we can. The solid waste regulatory compliance services, there will always be a need for us to make sure that the landfill stays in compliance. Even if we don't move forward with an expansion, our responsibility to regulatory compliance for that is in perpetuity for as long as we own it. So there's always going to be some type of investment into that. The Eastside Transfer Station project, the expected shortfall for the current budget that we have is about $5.6 million. So that request will come in FY '28 and we'll be able to cover phase one, the end of phase one for that construction. And then there's the Western Sanitation Yard renovation project. What I talked about today, our current estimate is about $17 million. What we currently have is $10 million. We are expecting, just based off of the way that construction has inflated over the last couple of years, that $17 million number is probably going to look more like 20 when we actually get to bid. So that request for that additional 10 is in FY '28. Outside of that, the big number that you see in FY 31 is really to cover, part of it is to cover that second phase of Eastside Transfer Station where we're developing the small haulage transfer station. But then additionally, in the long haul study, we also called out for them to find us a location to actually put a secondary transfer station for the city. So we would expect those funds to cover the development of that second transfer station as well. Overall, these are long-term capital needs as we see them. The big one, the waste diversion facilities, is that $100 million effort. This is what we believe that it could potentially cost with some of these programs that we're looking to develop. I'll say that one of our strategies for the waste diversion facilities is to look more towards a P3 model, but this is, an indication if we tried to develop it ourselves, what we could be looking at as far as the number goes. And, quite honestly, this may be short. We talked about pretty much the rest of them, the Eastside Transfer Station piece, the construction of a construction and demolition recycling center as indicated in the long haul study, and then the last one for the aerated static pile composting facility. Less Waste Better Baltimore actually called out for 4 composting facilities. The first one that we're developing is about $8 million. which will cover 12,000 tons. In order for us to get to 24,000 tons, we had to develop an additional facility. And what you see here is that the request to be able to do a secondary composting facility somewhere else in the city. Overall, the city solid waste stream continues to grow every year based on historical waste generation trends. Investment in different strategies is necessary to provide the department with the flexibility to manage the city's future waste needs. The proposal for FY27 capital request creates a healthy and safe work environment for the employees. They continue to provide waste and recycling collection and disposal services. It relocates the Quarantine Road landfill expansion project and maintains regulatory compliance with state and federal requirements. And then it allows us to pursue waste diversion initiatives more aggressively. And that is our presentation. Any questions?
Thanks. Let me start with two, and then I'll turn to my colleagues. One, in the project detail, the compost facility is shown as an additional priority item as opposed to a base budget item. And that distinction is in the slides. And maybe it's a question for Sarah as much as for the department. Should we be taking that into account? I mean, is this really a $6 million budget request with a $3 million additional priority hoped for item, on the bottom?
I think it is something for the commission to pay attention to, because as we are trying to balance the budget and put together recommendations, the starting point will be to fund things that are in the base budget and the special projects. And we'll really have to, not that we won't examine those, but we'll be examining the additional priorities probably in more detail to see kind of what we can squeeze into the budget and what we're not able to.
So based on what we said earlier, and I didn't go back and look at the numbers, the $6 million number is what was in there, what was in the 27 year in last year's approved CIP.
Correct.
So they've carried forward the $6 million, excuse me, and then have added a $3 million additional priority for the compost facility.
Correct.
Okay. So, the other question is, it wasn't totally, I appreciate the director's explanation and your explanation of the long-term plan. I couldn't tell when you were presenting exactly whether any of these remaining items are in some way contingent on, it's not that many items, right? It's $3 million for Quarantine Road and $1 million each for waste diversion, facility health and safety, and regulatory compliance. Were any of those related directly to that study? Or contingent in any way on that study, or are they kind of separate things?
Yeah, I'd just say for the waste diversion line, that is contingent on the study. So that line, anywhere you see waste diversion, that is the result, or us planning to fund any result that comes out of the study.
Well, does that mean that believe me, I'm not trying to take money out of the budget. I'm just asking, does that mean that number might not get spent depending on how the study goes, or no matter how the study goes, you need that money in order to do something?
No matter how the study goes, we know that there's going to be something that's going to require some sort of planning or preliminary design. What I will say is the Quarantine Road landfill construction is contingent on the study. We are not going to be moving forward with relocating the road, which by itself is what, $30 million? $35 million to relocate Quarantine Road around the expansion. We are not going out to bid for that until we have that study completed, which we're looking within the next couple months to have some preliminary information.
So what's the $3 million that's in the budget now? That's not the road, that's some other
That
aspect
is addition. There's been money put in the budget for the past, I think, 2 decades, thereabouts, for the landfill. So there's a landfill trust that has different monies. Part of it's for the capital improvement, other part of it's for the eventual closure and maintenance of it. The question is, with $100 and some million, which I don't think it's that, but that's what the project would cost, is that the best use to get 15 more years or even 4 more years? That's the question the long haul study is asking. It would be a fairly significant deviation from our past practice. Which is why we did not feel comfortable making strong recommendations against any of the projects that we have been pursuing to date. But it is something that something's going to have to give in the next few years if we are not going to renew the incinerator contract, which Mayor Scott has been very clear about. And even if we did, we will be back here in 10, 15 years, and we won't have $100 million.
But the 3 million that's in there now is also contingent, or or the 35 million is contingent?
The 3 million has been money that has been added every year to the Quarantine Road landfill project, just to build up that pot of money for the expansion.
I see. So it's possible that if you end up going in a different direction based on the long haul study, you will not spend the $3 million. I mean, you need it in the budget because you don't know the answer yet.
Correct. We would be looking at that point to see what other options might be on the table. So some of the things we've been thinking about is a transfer facility, some sort of rail yard. We've also been looking at a sorting facility where we could take all of our trash and recycling and sort it and try to recover what we can and actually reduce our trash significantly. Also looking at an east side or some other transfer station where we could work with a private vendor, develop some sort of P3 model where a private vendor could dispose of or transfer some of that waste for us. Question is, we're talking about massive scale, massive sort of economies of scale that we don't know the answer to yet. So we're not comfortable recommending any firm changes to what this board and the city council and the mayor have proposed in the past.
This is not my professional competency whatsoever, but 35 million to move the road, huh?
It is what we have is a lot of old closed landfills in the city, and all of these projects we are building on closed landfills. One of the reasons why Bowley's Lane is so expensive is because we've done core samples down. How far did we go down?
70 feet.
70 feet, and there's still trash. Which if we were doing some significant compaction and other issues with transfer operations, we'd have to actually go into the bedrock, which is likely going to be 100 feet or more of boring. So the expansion's actually a closed landfill with additional capacity. So we got to remove all of this, move all of this around, and there's the added risk. And we're looking at some of the contingency fees that our contractors have put into their estimates, and they're approaching, 40% or something?
30 to 40.
30 to 40% contingency fees because of the unknowns and the risk with this.
Okay. Thank you. Colleagues, Councilman.
Thank you for the presentation. I will say I was encouraged by the fact you used zero waste several times in the presentation, so glad that you're moving in that direction. I am curious, though, about the waste diversion facility. I know that some of this is based upon the long haul study and some of the recommendations that come out of that, but I'm curious, what kind of technologies, what are you envisioning for this waste diversion?
I'm going to ask Sophia Hossein to come up and talk about this. I know enough to be dangerous, so I know that she's the technical expert, so I'll let her talk about some of the ideas we're thinking.
Sure. So like Antoine mentioned, there's a few things on the list for the long haul study, and I can pull it back up just so that we can reference it. A priority would certainly be a material recovery facility. Many of the surrounding counties have their own material recovery facilities, and that's where all of the recyclables go to be sorted and then sold. Right now, we only have one vendor choice, really, in the region. It's kind of it's waste management, and there's no one else close enough that would make the logistics of moving recycled materials economically feasible for us. And that just kind of leaves us a little bit vulnerable to whatever the rates are that they set or whatever the terms are that they want to agree to. So material recovery facilities are also a recommendation in Less Waste Better Baltimore. They provide an economic opportunity as well to have green, clean industry jobs in the city. So that's one of them that I believe is a priority. We're also looking at construction and demolition. About 40% of what is landfilled is construction and demolition waste. And if we're looking at investing in the expansion of a landfill, taking out that 40% of materials would be incredibly useful to expand the lifespan that we're looking at. Of course, with construction and demolition, there is a lot of commercial interest and stakeholders that would need to be managed in order to divert that material successfully. We have been having some conversations with Councilwoman Ramos about a deconstruction bill and have been working in partnership with other agencies as well to figure out what it might take to actually make deconstruction a reality, because although DPW is really invested in the end of life fate, right, of construction and demolition materials, there's a lot to consider when it comes to actually building and like what is available and, some of our priorities in terms of redevelopment as well. Let's see what else is on here. The secondary transfer station, I feel like we talked about a lot, and then rail was. Do you want me to touch a little bit more on what rail might be?
Yes, because again, I know there's talk about rail transfer, and then the other thing that came up was also mixed use or mixed waste processing. So is that what you'd be envisioning at this location, or would that be something else?
It's something that we're exploring. It's kind of an unknown for us. There are some good models, and then there is much more bad models. So we want to understand what good and successful mixed waste processing could look like. But we don't want to sacrifice any of our zero waste or waste diversion
Thank you.
priorities.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, so in the scenario where we would want to entertain something like mixed waste processing, it could be that that we have a material recovery facility and it operates as a recyclable facility for the majority of the time, and then for part-time, we can pilot and see whether or not waste sorting makes sense. There's a lot that we would have to consider, because with these sorting facilities, you have to market the end product, and the end product is much more valuable and much more financially viable when it is already separated out at the curb. So we don't want to encourage there's some places in California that did a one bin model where it's everything goes in one bin and then they sort it from there. We don't want to move towards that at all. We want to encourage our residents to source separate their materials as much as we can, but maybe have mixed waste processing as a contingency for what's left.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Anything else you want to? Forgive me, anything else you want to convey to us, Director?
Yeah, and I think there's a point that Sophia made at the end, which is why I think the concept of some sort of public-private partnership on this area would be really beneficial. Is the city does a lot of things really well. One of them that they don't do really well is looking at what the end result would be for materials that require market-based pricing and other things. If there's a way for us to provide some of these operations and some other private entity to be the business side of this, perhaps, to be the one that manages the waste stream and manages the supply chain and manages the pricing, I think that this could be a model that could really be useful to a lot of other locations.
Are you part of the P3 project that Director Attila, I don't know if that's limited to DGS or if it's citywide, including DPW?
There are a number of different concepts where they're looking at P3s. Part of them are looking at the facilities. This would be a different type of that. Yes, we are talking about it, but it's a whole sort of universe of different.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
models.
what I'm asking is if we have got this grant, we hired a consultant, goes back a little bit to the same point the Vice Chair was making, are we maximizing that opportunity to talk about P3s, not just for DGS?
Yes.
So DPW is at the table for all of those conversations.
We are part of that team, that project team, yes.
Yeah, and I think you've heard the commission has an interest. I mean, look, we're not the subject matter experts. You all are going to have to figure out whether P3 makes sense for DGS or DPW or DOT or any other department. But I think you're going to see a continued interest from us, and at least in sort of continuing to wave the flag. And we are looking for a presentation. I thought it was DGS. Maybe it's broader than DGS, includes maybe infrastructure as well as DPW. I think there was the director asked for it to be deferred previously out of respect for the release of the 10-year financial plan, which has now been released. So now that that's released, I think we would very much like to schedule a presentation that's, as robust as we can make it on the sort of the P3 opportunities, the contract, and then who might be, able to benefit from it. So just a placeholder for you, and we'll figure out who else needs to participate.
Happy to participate.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
Yeah, I think the Mayor's Office of Infrastructure Development is the lead for that consultant
Right.
effort, and then we can bring in the partner agencies.
Yeah. So if you could, I've made a
We can
note, and
set
of
that
course
up.
you will too. Are there any other questions for the director? Is your solid waste team going to depart, and are you going to are you part of the second presentation as well as the director?
I am planning on it. I do have to run out at 1:30 for a meeting with the mayor, but do we have the water team, or are they outside? They might be outside.
So what I think we're going to do,
You can go right into it.
yeah, no, I mean, I
if
think
you'd
we're
like.
going to, I think as I said, and I want to make sure this still makes sense, I'm
they
looking
won't.
at the schedule, sorry. We're scheduled for 1:30, it's 1:15. I think what we're going to do is to recess for a few minutes, allow people to grab lunch. I guess it is better to have lunch during water and wastewater rather than during solid waste. So
Not during the sewer portion.
we'll have, well, good point. So we'll apologize to them for doing that, but I think that's what we'll do to sort of stay on schedule and out of respect for your own schedules.
Sure.
If you want to participate, what is the easiest way? You have to leave at 1:30. Do you know when you'll be back?
The meeting, the proposed meeting doesn't go longer than 2.
Well, we'll
But I
start,
have
we'll have
Deputy
start.
Director
Yeah, we'll start
Robinson,
before
yeah.
2, but if you want to come back and participate in that, of course,
Happy
please,
to.
please feel free.
Yes, sir.
And I asked in part about the departure of this team because I wanted to make sure they heard from the commission how much we appreciate, and I'll get to say this to you again later, but if the solid waste team is departing, I just want to thank everybody at DPW. It is a very complicated mission, a lot of money involved, really complicated, a tremendous amount of deferred cost, and it's an enormously complicated enterprise. And I just want to tell you on behalf of the commission how much we appreciate your professionalism, your hard work. It is a difficult task you have, and we look forward to trying to be as helpful as possible.
But, Mr. Chairman, before they
Yeah.
leave,
Yes, I'm sorry, the planning director, do you want to say something? Go ahead. You want to say it to me?
Yeah.
Oh.
we do need to see if there's anyone who wanted.
Yes, I'm
from the
sorry.
public.
Thank you for reminding me. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak briefly on the subject of solid waste? I know, Councilwoman, you wanted to talk specifically about water wastewater, and if you can hang on with us, we certainly give you that opportunity. Is there anybody else here who wishes to say anything or offer any questions or comments on the solid waste presentation? Seeing none? Any? Okay. Thank you for that.